Hey everybody. So welcome to this topics on my mind for the today, the 29th of October 2023, 2 days away from Halloween. And as you can see, I pretty much got it all outlined here so you guys can see exactly how I'm going to go in order and everything. And if I chapter this up, you'll know as well. So first of all, we're going to start with, my work, my vlogging on work this past week. And I will say that it was a quick. The week went by quick. I'll put it that way. But it was. I guess you can consider an Amazon-like week because for a majority of the week, I was working on the. I was working, I should say, in the Amazon section, if you will, for the returns. Because my job basically does the my job basically, that being Coles, where my sister also works as well. Um, they have an agreement with Amazon, and I don't know if they're the only ones. I'm sure there's others, but they're the main ones that I know of that have an agreement with Amazon to do returns. So if you order something from Amazon and it's not what you want, or it comes in poor condition, or whatever, you can return it through Coles. So you once you return it to Coles, they'll process it. They'll send it to the distributing centers, like where I work, and then they'll have stripping, take it out of the trailers that they arrive in, and then they'll go over to the Amazon section after being, placed on pallets or already palletized, if that's the case. With a date and time and everything, or a date, as to when they were palletized or stripped off the truck, and from when they're going to be sent out. Sent back to Amazon to be looked over. So um, it's it's been one of those kind of weeks, mainly, where I've worked mainly in Amazon. What are you doing? So hold on for a sec. All right, sorry about that, guys. Just checking something and everything. Um, and hold on again. Sorry about that, guys. Um, yeah, my mom's asleep on the couch, but she gets up once in a while because she has to move about. But still, it feels like she does that because she knows I'm recording and wants to see what I'm doing and stuff. Anyway, yeah, like I said, it was an Amazon kind of week, if you will. At work, because like I said, with Amazon and Kohl's, they have a deal where Kohl's will take the Amazon returns and distribute them to our distributing center, and then we'll sort them out, either palletize them and then bring them out, put a date as to when they've been palletized and when they need to be shipped back to Amazon, or we'll put the items onto pallets, because of the fact that they might be scattered about in the trailer. So most of the week for me, it was an Amazon week, except for Thursday. But even Thursday, I ended up doing Amazon because of the fact that they needed my help in like the last hour because somebody was leaving early, and that seems to have been the case 2 days in a row, Friday and Thursday. Because they would take somebody that was over there in stripping and bring them over to Amazon to scan. And mainly it was because this one girl, I think, left early because she has school, and that's the one thing that I look at as a possible advantage for me to stay there even on a part-time basis. The fact that they might need people because others still have school and everything to finish up. Anyway, that's kind of what was going on this past week and everything at work. And like I said, it went by fast. The only thing I will say about the Amazon part, when you're doing the Amazon returns, after you get the stripped, the palletized returns from stripping, and then you basically take that take that palletized those palletized items, and you just tear the plastic off where basically or not the plastic but the shrink wrap off to basically it's like, why even shrink wrap it, right? Well, you got to, because if you try doing it on its own, unless it's very small items, it's going to fall over and topple, and you don't want that. So, so the one thing I will say about it that's kind of stressful at times, but once you get the hang of it, it's like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. Just let it happen, see what happens, right? So one of the more stressful, I wouldn't say stressful, but one of the more frustrating things at times, not just for me, but for others, is when you're in the trailers. Now, surprisingly, 2 trailers are not as bad. One could get bad, but not necessarily. And that one is the middle trailer, known as non-con. That's for the non-con items and everything. So that sometimes could get bad. The first trailer, on the Amazon side is for soft lines, and that can get bad too, but not as bad. Surprisingly, that's a little bit more easier at times. Not too easy, but it's a little easier. And sometimes it could be the reverse. Non-con can be easy and soft lines cannot be. Because, non-con, sometimes you'll get you only get a few in between, and sometimes you'll get a lot here and there, if you will. But the one that got hit the hardest throughout the week I was in there was hard lines. And when I talk about get hit the hardest, I'm talking about the fact that, it's like I'll be in the trailer when it's my time to load, and I'll be putting them, trying to catch them as best I can, and they'll be coming off the conveyor belt, and sometimes they'll be coming off the conveyor belt so much that, they will basically drop on the floor and make a mess. And we're told, and rightfully so, we're told that you gotta try to stay ahead of the machine. And that's easier said than done. So, we're trying our best. We're trying our best and everything. But yeah, it gets to a point that the person that's in charge of Amazon, the problem solver, has to come in and help us. And again, here's the thing. Hard lines is the most frustrating out of that. Sometimes it can be easy, but most times it's not. Like I said, the ones that are easier than that are soft lines and non-con. That's where it gets a little frustrating. And what makes it even more frustrating at times, too, for a lot of people that do this, is the fact that the conveyor belt, it goes at a normal speed. I'll put it that way. It goes at a normal speed. Sometimes a little faster than you would expect, but it goes at a normal speed to where, when you see the item what's the one I'm looking for? With the category tagged on it, like non-con, soft, or hard, you're usually able to see it. You can see it, right? So when you see it, you can grab a hold of it as best you can, scan it, and then send it down to the trailer. Send it down to the trailer via conveyor belt, because we have the conveyor belts connected to where it's like all of it's on. It's like you turn it on, it all runs all together, all runs at once. So we have like 4 conveyor belts, not 5, but 6 conveyor belts. 2 for hard line, 2 for non-con, 2 for soft lines. So basically, when you get them and you get the items for the category you're scanning, or the area or the department the category department you're scanning, you just shove it down the conveyor belt, and that's also connected to a snake conveyor, as it's called. That's not automatic, but basically is one of the regular snakes, if you will, or conveyors, if you will, wheeled conveyors that's not electric, but you got to wheel it out yourself. You got to wheel it to where it's going to connect to get the job done. Anyway, though, hard lines out of all of them is probably the most frustrating, because that's obviously a very popular category to shop in for a lot of folks. Like I said, non-con and soft lines can get that way too, but not as much. They're usually trading back and forth. Like sometimes it'll be a non-con that'll be just as bad as hard lines, or second to worst are hard lines. Sometimes it'll be soft lines. It all depends. But what makes it even crazier, and I say this with all due respect, is the throwers. And I know anybody listening and watching probably understands where I'm coming from. You see, the throwers, are usually told, and when I was told this, by one of the head supervisors, seasonal supervisors, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try my best to heed by that. I'm going to try my best to, make that happen. Because what one of the supervisors told me was, when you put it on the conveyor belt, make sure it's like a few feet apart, or a few inches apart, if you will, like 3-4 inches, 3 or 4 feet, or I would say basically a foot apart, if you will, or 3 or 4 feet apart. At least give it enough space, like 3 or 4, like give it a foot or two of space, if you will. But always make sure that the label that says where it needs to go is always facing you. It's always facing the person that's scanning. So, I took what I was told there by the supervisor to heart. I'm like, okay, that's how it's got to be done. Makes it easier, right? Some of the throwers, and I'll say it with all due respect, because again, I know I'm not the only one that probably deals with this in this kind of environment. Sometimes they just toss it on there, like all of a sudden it's like all of a sudden you could be in the middle scanning, you could be the first one scanning, or you could be all the way on the left scanning, because the way they have it set up is soft lines is right next to the people throwing. A few feet down is the non-con scanner, and then a few feet after that is the hard line scanner. So so basically what will happen is that, again, I'm told and we're told basically to make sure it's all facing out, right? The labels are facing the scanner, so we can scan them and then push them down the conveyor belt to where they got to go, or to the trailer they got to go to. Well, sometimes the people that would throw the boxes onto the thing, they wouldn't do that. Sometimes they just toss them on there like that and everything, without the labels facing us. Sometimes the labels would be, if the labels are like on top of the box, not on the side or anything like that. Sometimes the label will be facing in the opposite direction, so we gotta either reach our hand over with the scanner and go click on it, or turn it around and click on it and push it. Or if we see it coming down the conveyor belt and has the label on the side, we got to click it right there, or grab it, turn it, click it, and then push it. And then well, first of all, that's not an issue at all. But the issue that does come around sometimes is, when they toss it onto the conveyor belt and the label is not seen. Now, usually that would mean, okay, there's no label, that's a problem, freight, put that to the side. But if there is a label, what you need to do, and you don't see it, what you need to do is lift the box, turn it around, turn it upside down to see if there's a label. And if there's a label, you got to click on it. And sometimes that interferes with everything else, because everybody else is waiting on their items to come to them, because one of the boxes that gets tossed, they didn't toss it correctly. Another thing too, that's a bit of a problem with the throwers, and again, I know I'm not the only one that's dealt with this. The other problem with the throwers, in this kind of situation, is they're not taking what is being taught to them, seriously. Because when you're told, hey, put some space between the boxes, make it easier, they're not doing that. They're just going boom, 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 and then that's it. It's almost like they have this belief. It's almost like they have this belief that the quicker they do this, the quicker they can, go home. It's kind of like it's kind of like with some jobs in retail. It's like, okay, if you get this done, it's like when you're told by your supervisor or boss in some of the other retail-like jobs, or grocery-like jobs, that, hey, if you get this done, that, you'll be able to probably go home early if it slows down within the next hour or so, right? That's not the case here. I mean, there'll be times we'll get VTO and everything. We'll get VTO offered to us if it's a little slow in the area, and some of us will take it. But most of the time, it's, you got to keep yourself busy. And I know people understand that, but I think they also have this mentality, well, if I get this all done quick and and everything, we can go home early. Again, that's not how it works. They got to realize that it doesn't matter how fast they go. There's still going to be more and more and more. And we had a lot of pallets full of Amazon returns that got put together, palletized, if you will, on from the shipping trailers, to be scanned and returned to Amazon for refunds or replacement or refurbishing, if you will. So it was just one of those kind of situations to where they still have a lot to learn. They still have a lot to learn, and again, I know I'm not the only one that deals with this at their job, but they have a lot to learn, and hopefully over time they will. Hopefully over time they will learn it. Now, I don't know if it's because they look at the fact that, we're just seasonal, we're not going to last long, so why should we even care? That's not the case. Because if you take your job seriously and you want to learn and you communicate, from what I've been told, and this is with any job, especially if it is seasonal, there's a good chance they're going to keep you. There's a good chance they're going to keep you. There are some jobs I thought was just going to be seasonal, in retail, and I got kept because I'm good, because I did what I had to do. I listened. So I don't know if that's that mentality they have. Those are the mentalities they have, that if we toss these things up real quickly, we can get out of here early, and everything. If we get it done quickly, or heck, we're not going to be here much longer, so why should we care? And that's kind of the attitude I've noticed with some of the people, and again, I know I'm not the only one, but it's an attitude I've noticed with some people, to where it's like it's like they just don't really want to be there. It's like, they don't want to be there, but they don't want to waste their unexcused absences, the UAs, because we have 80 that's granted to us at the start, and if we use that a lot, it reduces real quickly. So they don't want to use that, at all, but they also give off the vibe that they don't want to be there. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for anybody else, because there's a lot of people that I was hired with, on the day I was hired, and I saw get hired afterwards, that do want to be there because they want to make money, and they're hoping maybe, hey, this might lead to something better, or hey, if we are let go, maybe we'll get a good recommendation if we apply elsewhere. They want to work, they want to earn that money. But again, I can see that kind of like situation where some people are like, they have this attitude like, I don't want to be here today. But I don't want to be here today, but I don't want to waste my hours and everything. And it's like, well, if you don't want to be there, then why did you? And here's the question anybody has for people like that at any job, seasonal or not. It's like, if you don't want to be here, then why did you even apply? That's the thing. If you don't want to be here, why did you even apply? I'm just saying. But yeah, I kind of noticed that a little bit. I mean, heck, I'll tell you this. I think it was earlier this week. Well, not this week, but last week. I think I mentioned this in the vlog last week. People, when our first shift manager or first shift supervisor, the guy that's in charge of scheduling along with somebody else, when he called us all for like a little group meeting after, I think, was it lunch? Or no, it wasn't lunch, it was first break. After first break, everybody had this look on their face, and it was like the second time he did this, second time in a week that he did this, and everybody had this look on their face like, ooh, are we going to be told we can do VTO? Are we going to be granted VTO, voluntary time off? We can go home early? Nope. It was the opposite. It was VTI, voluntary time in. And you can just see that excitement just disappear, the disappointment come on their faces like, crap. But you know what's crazy is some of them were okay with that, because they're like, all right, I can use the extra money. So there you go. There you go. But yeah, you could just tell that, people are getting at that point right now that they're thinking, they're either thinking, I'm not going to be here much longer, so why should I care? Or they get this attitude of, I don't really want to be here, but I don't want to, give up my UA. And then some of them have the attitude, like I said, with the conveyor belt situation, to where it's like, if we get this done quickly, we can get out early. That's not the case. That's not the case. And you know what? You know what? I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say this because it only happens at my job. It's happened at all jobs I've been at. It has. It's happened at all the jobs I've been at. And I'm no perfect, pigeon when it comes to it as well. But I've noticed, I've noticed more so than anything that when people have to use the restroom, they'll let the supervisor guy or the problem solver person in charge know so they can take their place for a bit till they come back. I've done that a couple of times, but when I go to the restroom, I go take care of my business, if you know what I mean, and then I come back. That's it. Yeah, I check my phone because, heck, it's an opportunity to check my phone, but then afterwards I come back, after I take care of business, if you know what I mean. Not to sound disgusting, but I come back and I get back to work. The people I've noticed here, when it comes to Amazon or wherever, or even, at other jobs I've been at, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as well, they will say, oh, we got to use the restroom. And usually for me, I'm about like 5 minutes at most, unless I really got to go. But most times I'll notice people do that, and they'll be gone for like 10 to 15 minutes. And even the problem solver, the person in charge that's watching the area for them, you can notice that they'll have a look on the face like, man, what's taking this person long? And I don't think they're fooling anybody. Everybody knows, and the supervisors can't say anything about this because of the fact that they can't have cameras in the bathroom, so they can't prove this. They can't have cameras in the bathroom, so they can't prove this. But you can't tell me that no one is aware of the fact that what these people are doing is going into the bathroom, maybe taking care of business, but mostly using it as an excuse to be like, hey, what's going on, folks? Hey, I just thought I'd call you back. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I told them I had to go use the restroom. Oh, they believed me. Ha, ha, ha. It's like, it's like you're not fooling anybody. But we can't, but the thing is, the supervisors can't say anything because they don't have proof. They don't have proof, if you know what I mean. But yeah, people are not, but the thing is, folks like myself that have been working for over 20 years, at various jobs, and even the supervisors and problem solvers, you cannot fool us with what you're doing. Okay, you can't. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to catch up to you, and it's going to bite you in the butt. Period. It's going to bite you in the butt. Because what's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, you need to go, when you tell them, hey, you got to go to the restroom, they're going to say like, okay, hand me your phone. And if you ask, why do you want my phone? It says, they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you. Because I know what you're really up to. I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. I've seen how long you've been gone. Hand me your phone if you got to go. And then you know what will happen? That person will be like, fine. Fine. They either they'll either, just say, you know what? Fine. I'll stay. You caught me. Whatever. They'll admit, hey, okay, you caught me, you got me. Or they'll be just like, you know what? I certainly don't have to go. I'll stick around. Just because they'll realize they got caught. So yeah, they're not fooling anybody. Again, the problem is nobody can prove it. Because cameras not allowed in bathrooms, period. They're not. But yeah, otherwise besides that, it was an Amazon-like week for me at work. Now I'm not sure what it's going to be like this upcoming week because they basically scheduled most of everybody for 50 hours, which is mainly 4 a.m. to 2:30. Or if you work late night, it's 3 to 1:30. So they scheduled mostly everybody for 50 hours, except for those like myself that can't do that, because of my situation. So I talked to one of the first shift people, and she was completely understanding of the situation. And I told her, and she said, hey, don't worry, I'll send an email out. And I think she did that right when I told her. And my schedule is set to where everybody else, including my sister, has to go in at 4. I, along with other people, will come in later, like 6 or 7. I'm coming in at 6. So, that works out for me. And it helps out because this week and next week we got the $2 incentive to where if we don't miss our schedule, we don't miss our schedule. We work it out fully, unless VTO is approved. We work it out fully unless VTO is approved. We work our full shift. When only late by an hour, not 5 minutes or a minute after, then we will be eligible to have an additional $2 added to our check. So I make 16, I'll be making 18. Sounds good to me. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's been one of those kind of weeks, and you really start noticing things when you work there, especially when it comes to other employees. So thought I'd just say that thought I'd just bring that up for the vlog portion here. And next up, we're going to get into our topics that you can see here on the screen. Be right back. Alright guys, so the topics we're going to talk about here, you can see them listed. One is LadyDrasami, or Drasami, is not leaving the OC adult fan artist community. We'll talk about that. Number 2, we'll talk about Republican Mike Johnson is the House Speaker, and the Democrats may not like him more than Kevin McCarthy. We'll talk about that. Number 3, the Kansas Jayhawks score a huge upset win over Oklahoma in Big 12 college football play. First victory over Oklahoma since 1997, and why that is significant to someone like me. Number 4, we'll talk about All Elite Wrestling, AEW, adding a December pay-per-view called World's End. We'll get into that. Number 5, we'll talk about Rhys, Frake-Waterfield. We'll talk about him having trouble with releasing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 in February 2024. Number 6, we'll talk about November 1st is when Christmas music will start playing on Music Choice and various other musical outlets. Number 7, we'll talk about Trip the Sungazer being the newest Sonic female character in the franchise. And number 8, we'll talk about Alopex and Raphael back together in the main IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. And where does that place Ninjara when she debuts? So, all that and more, but mostly that lineup there, guys. So you'll also see it in the description as well. But those are the topics we are going to. Okay, hold on for a sec. I think there's no Pepsi there. But those are the topics we are going to talk about here. So without further ado, be right back with topic number 1. Okay guys, so starting off with number 1 here, LadyDrasami, is not leaving the OC adult fan artist community. Now, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, I did a video on this, basically talking about the fact that she is a good person, a good person that you should support and everything, and go and support basically. What happened mainly is apparently, and she didn't specifically say, but it sounds like there was a troll or various amount of trolls, cyberbullies here on the internet that had gotten to her so much that she was on her. It basically almost broke her. It almost broke her, and she was basically saying, "You know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm giving up. I'm gonna sell off my OC Drasami character. I'm gonna finish up my commissions. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm done." Mainly because a troll, as she put it, was trying to bring her down. But what happened is everybody from where she was on Echo's portal to Twitter to Facebook or wherever she's found poured out the love for her. They basically said, "No, we don't want to see you go. Don't let this happen." Some person even said, "You'll let negative thoughts cloud judgment and everything." And she took that all to heart, and she even took a few days to contemplate what was all the love, or contemplate everything people were telling her, all the positive love and vibes, they were sending to her. And she then started wondering, okay, well, where can I go to? Where can I go to where I can possibly continue doing this? because the other thing that was bringing her down is that Patreon was, Patreon, like a lot of outlets, like a YouTube, a Spotify, a Twitter, now known as X, and other places, are always changing up, the rules and the policies, and sometimes sticking with them, sometimes temporarily sticking with them, changing, and then changing back and stuff like that. Basically, Patreon had gotten on her about her, about her Patreon page, about what she was getting people to support her financially, for, getting sneak peeks at, certain works, or getting first glance at comics that she would collab with and stuff. And basically, because those policies were changing, and she, among other people out there, was getting targeted and possibly, possibly having their page taken down, and along with, like I said, this troll or various trolls that were getting on her, she just felt like she felt like she couldn't do it anymore. She was just mentally fatigued. But once she got, but once she got all this, outpouring of love thrown her way, she was just like, she was just, she was just tearing up with joy, apparently. From what I understand, she was tearing up with joy and happiness of all this outpouring she was getting from people, all the support. And like I said, that's when I think during the couple of days she took to herself, she was pondering, okay, well, where do I go next if I want to do this still, if I want to keep doing this? And she was asking about certain places, like I think one place was Fanbox or something like that. But then I think somebody, or I think somebody may have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think somebody may have suggested to her to go to Subscribestar. And that's what she did. She went to Subscribestar, and, the rest is history, because apparently Subscribestar is another Patreon-like place to where you could get access before anybody else. But the difference is Subscribestar is less restrictive with what you present. Patreon is not. And I think the reason Patreon is not that way anymore is because, just like with places like YouTube, the more you become publicly known, on a not just on a nationwide basis, but an international, worldwide basis, the more you become known, the more you become popular, among content creators and stuff, the more you're going to have people scrutinizing you and saying, oh, well, you're allowing this and that, and, we should have you taken down. And because of that because of that peer pressure, you're like, you'll basically be like, oh, no, don't worry, we'll fix this. And the end result is people that use you to financially support themselves through the support of others get affected, especially those that, have the kind of artwork that Lady D, as I like to call her for short, does for a living. So again, because of that, and some kind of trolls trying to take her down, she almost wanted to quit. But then that outpouring of love from people like myself and others, the support from people like myself and others, really touched her to the point that she started considering other places to go. And she chose Subscribestar because, again, other people have used that to basically be like the main outlet for the more adult erotic artwork that they do. Sometimes the artwork that she does do, and I've mentioned this before, is along the lines of the fetish kind known as vor, soft vor, or unbirth, or even melting. And again, they're less restrictive than Patreon because they're not as big as Patreon, but they're more popular because of that. They're more popular because of that. So yeah, she's not leaving. She's not going to be going anywhere. Thank the Lord for that. Because she's a good person. She's a good person, and God, to me, answering everybody's prayers to help her out. God basically said, look, you can go to this place. This is the place you should go to. It's got less restrictions, and you can do what you want to do there, without worrying or anything, at all. Because again, the less you're known at one place, the less the less you're known, but the less the outlet you're a part of is known, the more freedom you can have. And Subscribestar is one of those places to where you can have a lot of freedom. This is why you look at, outlets like, let's say, BitChute or archive.org or daily, or to an extent, VENMO, if you will, starting to come out and saying, hey, we have restrictions, but we're not as restrictive as YouTube and Daily Motion, So you have them starting to be utilized more so because of less restrictions. But yeah, in the end, she made the announcement. She made the announcement that she is not going anywhere. She's not leaving. And she's going to continue on. The only difference now is you can find her at Subscribestar instead of Patreon. She might still keep her Patreon and all that, but she's going to mainly more focus on Subscribestar, as well as places like Echo's Portal and Gumroad, to showcase, if not sell, her work for people that support her and love her for who she is and what she does. So that's about it there. But hold on, I almost lost my train of thought there. But yeah, that's just a great thing to hear and all that. And this is also something that obviously is, this is something on the internet, whether you're on something like Patreon or on YouTube or wherever, you're going to have to deal with, because there are people, and I said this in the original video, I believe, there are people that are going to try to troll you. They're going to try to cyberbully you because they don't understand. They don't understand why you're into what you're into, or why others are into what you're into, and they support you. So because they don't understand, they're going to try to troll you. They're going to try to break you mentally, because it's like, well, if I don't understand it, then nobody else should understand it. Or if I don't understand it and I can't have fun with it, nobody else should understand and have fun with it. And neither should the person that's part of it. They have that mentality. And sometimes it's not even people like that don't understand it and feel like, well, if I don't understand it, then they shouldn't understand it, so I'm gonna break them. No. Sometimes it's just bullies. It's cyberbullies. It's trolls. People that just want to cause trouble because they're like, I'm bored. Let's see what I can do here. Here's this person. I'm going to troll them. I'm going to break them. That'll make me feel good. That's the kind of world we're in right now. And again, when it comes to things they may not understand, yeah, that's a lot more challenging. There's no doubt. It's a lot more challenging. There's no doubt. But, the thing is, if they don't understand it, then why even bother? Just ignore it. Like, hey, that's not your cup of tea. Just ignore it. Leave them alone. It's kind of like with a lot of stuff. If people judge others because of this and that, the answer people give them is like, well, if you don't like it, then don't pay attention to it. Or if you don't like it, then why are you even, trying to bring it down? Just ignore it. Go away. Leave. It's all because they're bored. It's like, they need something to keep them, occupied and all that. And mostly, I think we all know this, a lot of these trolls and cyberbullies, if you research it, these trolls and cyberbullies are actually young kids. They're either young kids starting in high school, or in the middle of high school, they're in junior high, middle school, or maybe even in the final years of elementary school. Grade school, if you will. Basically kids that are like in the 5th to, I would say, 12th grade at most, maybe even freshman year at college, but mostly the kids from I would say kids from between the 5th grade to the 11th grade, basically junior year. Those are the kind of trolls you got to look out for. And all you have to do to decipher, like, okay, what kind of troll am I dealing with, is look at how they type and the wording. Because if something is typed up and worded in a way to where it's like, here's a capital letter, small letter, capital letter, small letter. If the wording is like that, to where like one word is, all cap is like, uppercase letter, lowercase letter, uppercase letter, lowercase letter. And then the next word is the same way, or the word might have some numbers in it, then that's a kid. That's a kid that's like, ooh, I'm going to bully them. Because they're bored. They're bored. And the parents are not watching them. And that's a shame. That's a shame. But yeah, we're in that kind of world now. So my advice to LadyDrasami and anybody else that's dealing with this kind of stuff or has dealt with it, one of my advice, check check how the comments and all that are typed towards you by these trolls and cyberbullies. Only then will you know, oh, it's just a kid, I'm going to ignore it. Because mainly that's what you're dealing with, is a young kid. And sometimes that young kid ranges from the ages of 5th grade to junior in high school. And that's it. But overall, with all that said, I'm glad Lady Drasami is not leaving. I thank God that she overcame this, and she's not going to let some troll or trolls get her down. And if you want to find her and support her financially, Gumroad and Subscribestar are the main areas to do it. Alright, so our next topic here is Republican Mike Johnson is the new House Speaker, and the Democrats may not like him more than Kevin McCarthy. Now, what I mean by that is, in case you don't know, Kevin McCarthy was the House Speaker since the beginning of the year almost, and he made a lot of promises and such, and he was trying to, I guess, work those out and everything. But his main focus, anytime you would watch the news, we do a CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and whatnot, ABC, NBC, CBS, and like I said, CNN, Fox News, Fox Nation, MSNBC, C-SPAN. His main focus was to basically, get rid of the Bidens. That's mainly what it was. His main focus was to get Hunter Biden arrested, get him, behind bars for what he did, and by extension, impeach his father, Joe Biden, for pretty much hiding some information that he may or may not have known of when it came to his son. So that was like his main focus. Like he had other plans that he was, that he's going to go through, he's going to follow through on, but his main focus, like I said, anytime you would tune on the news, would be to, get the Bidens, get them out. Because, he didn't trust them. He didn't trust them. He looked at them as liars and such. And basically, he's one of the people that felt, I think, in my opinion, I think this is true, he's one of the people that felt that the Bidens, unbeknownst or known to them, stole the election. They stole the election in 2020. So he wanted to, get rid of them, even if that meant putting Kamala Harris in as president. But yeah, because he was mainly focused on that most of the time, along with some other stuff as well, every Democrat and surprisingly Republicans, said enough with this guy. Let's get him out of power. Let's get him out of here. Let's veto him out or vote him out. And that's what they did. So Mike Johnson ended up being the new Republican. Not Mike Johnson, but it came down to Mike Johnson and Jerry Johnson, or whoever it was, Jim Johnson, and another person, basically up for the role of House Speaker, and Mike Johnson won it. He apparently put his name in and said, "Okay, I'll run," and he did. And the reason I think the Democrats may not like him more than Kevin McCarthy is because he is pro-Trump, no doubt. He is pro-Trump. And he is against everything that Democrats have supported, like pro-abortion and stuff like that. He's against it. I mean, he even said the abortion is like the freaking he compared, I should say, abortion to the Holocaust. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, he's a Republican, obviously, as you see in the title, but he's also somebody that's very pro-Trump. He firmly believes the election was stolen and stuff. But he's also somebody that's going to try to get all parties on the same page. And again, this is where Democrats may not like him because of the fact that, we traded in one Republican that we didn't like for someone that's probably going to be, even more trouble. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, his main goal is to get a lot of things done, get all sides together on the same page, or at least try to, if you will. But you can't tell me he's not going to also probably continue where McCarthy left off, where he's going to try to find out, okay, Biden's, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? What are you lying about? And you can't tell me he's not going to also try to investigate, more so into the election of 2020 being pretty much, a fraud. in everybody's eyes, or at least a majority of people's eyes. A fraud, controversial, stuff like that. So yeah, he might be in some Democrats' eyes, he might be more trouble than McCarthy, and that's a fact. That's a fact, because again, you just listen to him, you hear what he's about, you hear what he's against, and it's like, it's like for Republicans, this is like, hey, this is great. This is a saving grace for us. This is somebody that's going to get things done, even if they do have other agendas they want to take care of, or other agendas that they want to finish, where they have other agendas that they want to accomplish that were left on the table by the previous regime. So yeah, they look at this guy like, yeah, he's going to get things done. He's going to be someone that actually stands up for what he's saying and and promises, but also somebody that when he gets the opportunity is going to say, okay, now let's focus on the Bidens. Let's focus on what was really behind the stealing of the 2020 election, because even with the 2024 one coming up, and despite what happens there, historically or not, you can't tell me that this 2020 election will not still be investigated thoroughly. You can't tell me, because it's going to go down as one of those elections to where if evidence is found out that, yeah, it was tampered with, yes, certain people like the Bidens, like Pelosi, like Harris, knew about it, and they were trying to hide it, they were trying to cover it up. The main thing that I think could happen, because this has all been about history, right? I mean, McCarthy was the first House Speaker in history to be voted out. So I think what's going to happen is, I don't know if they have the power to do this, but I could see them saying, okay, we found out what we knew pretty much is the truth, so we're saying this election, never happened. They can pretty much, erase the 2020 election from history, and that's a fact. That's a fact. So, him being, House Speaker might be something that, the Democrats may find worse than Kevin McCarthy. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. So the next topic we're going to talk about here is yesterday, the Kansas Jayhawks, the football team, scored a huge upset over Oklahoma in Big 12 college football. And what's interesting is it's the first victory over Oklahoma, as far as, what they've been saying, since 1997. And honestly, and I'll be honest with you, I watched most of the game and it was good. It was really good. But the reason I bring up, the year as being the last time they beat Oklahoma, is because, of its significance when it comes to me. You see, this was around the time that I was a senior. That's right. I was a senior in high school when they last won. So that's a pretty big deal to know that the last time they got a victory over the Sooners was when I was a senior in high school. So to know that they finally accomplished that, after all this time, is a pretty big deal. Now you might wonder, well, how long has that been? Well, 1997 to now, it's been about 26 years. That's pretty big. It's a very long time as far as I know, and as far as they've reported. It's a long time since that's happened. And with this win, the Jayhawks are once again, for the first time in quite some time, I think the first time since about 2007, 2008, when they were going on that huge run in the Big 12. That was the year they actually went to the Orange Bowl, I believe. I think they went to the Orange Bowl that year. Let me check something. Hold on for a second. Let me check something here. So let me see. Yeah, 1997. Let's see. Bowl. There we go. Wikipedia has it. Wikipedia has it. So let's see. Yeah, 2008 Orange Bowl, and then or actually, was it the Orange Bowl? 2008. Yeah. It's the first time since the 2007, 2008, if you will. You know, that the Jayhawks won. And they won the Orange Bowl that year. They were 11-1 that year, if you will. And then, I think the following year, unless this is a mistake on their part, the following year they played in the Insight Bowl, which they won as well. So they won those games and everything. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool and everything. That they got that, and then of course, basically they went into the Liberty Bowl, and I think they lost that one. I think they lost the Liberty Bowl last year, and everything. Yeah, they did by 3. They lost the Liberty Bowl by 3 to Arkansas. That was the year. The last time they beat the Sooners in the 97-98 season was when they went to the Orange Bowl and won, and they had the record of 11-1. Now they're 6-2, and up next for them is Iowa State, who I don't know what their record is. I'll have to look here. Their record is 5-3. Their record is 5-3, and the Kansas is going to go to Iowa. It's going to go to their home turf in Ames, Iowa, to face them. So that's going to be an interesting game, because Iowa State needs to win it to get bowl eligible. Kansas is already bowl eligible and everything. So it's going to be it'll be a must win for Iowa State, because they're going to want to get bowl eligible against Kansas and everything. So we'll see what happens and everything. Kansas, I know is going to want a better record, because the better your record is, the better chance you got to get into a bigger bowl game. Basically, the closest to New Year's Day level games. And as far as the schedule goes, it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be interesting along the ways, because we know they got Kansas State coming up. We know that. We know they got Kansas State coming up, and that's going to be a big game in its own right. There's no doubt it's going to be a big game in its own right, and that's going to be on the 18th. Because Kansas has got Texas. Kansas State's got to go to Texas this Saturday. Then they got Baylor at home, and then they got to go to Lawrence. So that's going to be an interesting game. And Kansas, like I said, in their own right, they have a schedule ahead of them. They got Iowa State, they got Texas Tech at home, they got Kansas State, like I said, and then they got to go to Cincinnati. And Texas Tech's record right now, if I can look it up, let's see. Their record is 3-5, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting overall for all of them going forward. So I can tell you this: the Kansas State game, depending on how both teams do in the next few weeks, is going to be really interesting, really intriguing, because again, Kansas has Iowa State, and then I think Kansas State has got to go to Texas. So that's going to be interesting both ways, because Kansas State is going to probably want to do what Kansas did to Oklahoma and beat Texas, so that way their Sunflower Showdown has a little bit more significance maybe down the line. Because like I say, the better the record, the better chance you get to go into a bigger bowl game, even if that bowl game's earlier in the bowl season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I said, very significant because it's the first time, since I was a senior in high school that they did this. Um, so that's great and everything. And I have to correct myself. I was just thinking about this. I have to correct myself. They didn't beat Oklahoma when they went 11-1. Oklahoma was the only loss, as far as we know, when they went to the Orange Bowl in 2008. So Oklahoma was the only loss. Everything else they won. Everything else they won. So Oklahoma, like I said, was the only loss and everything. But yeah, to win it for the first time since '97, that's amazing. I mean, you think of you think about some of the good coaches they had, some of the decent coaches they had. I mean, they had some notable ones. They even had the coach from Notre Dame at one time, come in to try to, rebuild the program, and that didn't work as far as I know. And that, yeah, it didn't work. I mean, it came close, but it didn't succeed what they wanted. But now you got this guy this Lance person who came from the MAC school of Buffalo, the Buffalo Bulls, and he's basically taking what he did there successfully and applying it to Kansas. And he's like, hey, this school is more than just a basketball school. This school is a football school. He's doing what Mark Mangini had done previously. He's doing what Mark Mangini had done previously. Like I said, around when the Jayhawks had that big win and everything. Lance Leipold, his coaching tenure is, let's see where he coached at. He coached at Buffalo. Before that, Wisconsin Whitewater, Nebraska Omaha. He was an assistant at Nebraska. He was an assistant at Nebraska Omaha. He was a graduate assistant at Wisconsin. So he has a decent record. So he's worked elsewhere. And get this, according to Wikipedia, his overall his head coaching record overall, 160-58. That's pretty cool. And he's 2-2 in bowls and 34-1 in NCAA Division III playoffs. So that's a decent resume. That's a decent resume to be, when you combine it all together, to be 160-58. That's pretty good. So we'll see, what he does now going forward. See what they're doing now, going forward and everything. And there's no doubt in my mind they're going to get ranked. They are definitely going to get ranked. If you will, they're going to get ranked down the line. They're going to get. I mean, you beat the number 7 team in the land, and there's no doubt they're going to get ranked. There's no doubt they're going to get ranked. So, so to me, there's no doubt in my opinion that they're going to get ranked in a big way. I don't know what the projections will be, this year. I don't know what the projections will be this year and all that, but all I know is that somebody's going to probably project them to go to something other than the Liberty Bowl. I think they'll project them maybe to go to potentially the Holiday Bowl if they continue succeeding. Maybe they'll make it at large if they really get good. We'll have to see. But yeah, their record right now. Their record right, where they are in the Big 12. That being Kansas. Where they are right now in the Big 12. There's 6 in the Big 12 apparently. That's according to the standings. There's 6 behind Kansas State and Texas and Iowa State. But Iowa State's 5-3, so that's going to definitely change and everything. That's going to change. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, again, as far as bowl games go, someone's going to project them to go higher. There's no doubt. They're going to project them to go higher and everything. But be honest with you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because you can't tell me that other teams that they're going to be facing like Iowa State and Texas Tech and Kansas State are not going to look at this and be like, okay, what did Oklahoma do right, and what did they do wrong that we can improve on, that we can prevent, like you can't tell me that the Cyclones or the Red Raiders are not going to be like, okay, what did Oklahoma do wrong that we can avoid, and what did they do right that we can improve on. Like I was saying, we'll just have to see what they do next, basically, because again, you can't tell me that a lot of these teams that they're going to be facing aren't going to look at what happened with Oklahoma and be like, well, okay, what did they do wrong that we can avoid, and what did they do right that we can improve on? So they might be 6-2 now and bowl eligible. The question is, can they keep up that momentum? Because they're relying on a backup quarterback right now, which is not that uncommon for any college or pro football team, college or pro football team to do. Because we've seen that when you rely on the backup quarterback, that sometimes that might be a blessing. I know the 49ers have to depend on potentially Sam Darnold today against the Bengals at home. So we'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, they were relying on a backup quarterback because the main one is out with an injury or something. So I'm assuming that once he comes back, that that might be an improvement, or they might go with Bean. They might just rotate. You never know, because they've been known to do that. But yeah, a lot of teams, in my opinion, are definitely going to be like, okay, they beat Oklahoma. Let's see what we can avoid, what mistakes Oklahoma made that we can avoid, and what positive things they did that we can improve on. So we'll see. But that's it for that topic. And now on to the next one. Alright, next topic we have here is AEW All Elite Wrestling adds December pay-per-view called World's End. Now, this is something that, has been talked about for a while. I mean, AEW has been adding more pay-per-views this year, mostly part of the deal that they got ongoing with Warner Bros. Discovery. And now they've added a new one to close the year out. The question is, they have 8 pay-per-views right now. Is that too much? Or is that just the right amount? We don't know. Now, what this does, too, is it kind of complicates things a little bit, in my opinion, because Full Gear, which is their next pay-per-view, is always looked at as their big pay-per-view. Basically, it's their, it's the be-all, end-all, to end the year on, because basically we don't get another pay-per-view until Revolution, which is around the end of February, beginning of March. So for them to change that dynamic and say, hey, we're doing World's End, it makes you wonder exactly what does that do with Full Gear. Now, some might say it kind of explains why Full Gear has a potential lackluster main event for the World Championship and such. And that might be true because maybe at World's End they're saving everything for that. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they have in mind. As my computer is loading right now, I don't know what it's loading, but we'll have to see what they have in mind going forward. Because we know that when they debuted Wrestle Dream this past week, but basically I think it was earlier this month when they did Wrestle Dream, where Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, debuted at. Speaking of said debut, that moment happened at the end of the show. So you have to wonder if they're doing World's End to potentially debut some new talent, because we know that there's some former WWE talent that was released recently, some notable ones who's from the main roster whose contracts, or not contracts, but non-compete clause, I should say, are going to be up, around the time World's End possibly happens. So you have to wonder if maybe Tony Khan is doing this not just to, improve his relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery, make sure they get a good TV deal going forward, hopefully get onto Max in the near future. But you have to wonder if he's doing this so that he can, just like with Wrestle Dream, have an excuse to debut some talent that you would never thought would show up in AEW because of their long ties with WWE. So you have to wonder if that's why he's doing this as well. And he just might be doing that. And there's, like I said, there's a ton of talent. There's Shelton Benjamin, there's Dana Brooke, there's Dolph Ziggler. There's a lot of names, main roster wise, that got released that you might see in, Elias, potentially. Riddick Moss is another. I think who else got released that was with Riddick? Emma, Tennille Dashwood. So this might be the event where you see some of those people debut, because again, this is around the time that apparently, their contracts, they might be up at that time. I'm going to see when the event is. Here we go. December 30th. So yeah. World's End is December 30th. It's going to be at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, Long Island, New York. So yeah, it's basically the day before New Year's Eve. And you have to wonder, again, you take a look at when those talents were released from WWE. To me, the timing couldn't be any better. Timing couldn't be any better for Tony Khan to, use a new event to say, hey, I'm going to debut Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. I'm going to debut Shelton Benjamin. I'm going to debut Tennille Dashwood. I'm going to debut Riddick Moss, Elias. I'm going to debut these people. And I'm going to bring them in, maybe under their name, under their names or names that are similar to what people know them as. You never know. That might happen. And which is why, again, like I said, is the reason he's doing this pay-per-view. Not just to show that he's a team player with Warner Bros. Discovery to try to get a new TV deal and get a deal on Max, but to also, sign new talent to bring them in. And make them part of the roster. So we'll have to see, but yeah, they've added this new pay-per-view, which is apparently going to be the day before New Year's Eve. And you have to wonder again, if they're going to basically put all the emphasis now, or they're going to take all the emphasis away from Full Gear, which was outside of, I believe, All Out. And now All In as well, was the second or third biggest pay-per-view of the year. I mean, nothing against Double or Nothing. That's a big pay-per-view. That's the first pay-per-view they've ever done. So one would consider that to be the WrestleMania. But now that's probably going to get dropped off into the third or fourth position, as important pay-per-views. Like, you got to have your big four, right? You got to have your big four. So the way I look at it, the big four is going to be Double or Nothing, All In, All Out, and Full Gear, right? That's what you have right now with AEW, but that could change to where it's going to be a big five, and the fifth one's going to be Worlds Collide. Oh, not Worlds Collide, but World's End. It's going to be World's End. But will that take importance away from Full Gear to where Full Gear might just be looked at like Revolution, like, hey, this is a pay-per-view that starts us off, or, not a pay-per-view that, is a filler, like, Revolution, has, it depending on who's behind it, could have decent build-up, but in the end, it's just a pay-per-view. Sometimes it's just filler. Like, it has some decent stories and all that, depending on who's booking it. But most of the time, it's not treated with relevance, like Double or Nothing, or All In, or All Out, or, or Full Gear. Heck, even Forbidden Doors treated a lot better than Revolution. So you have to wonder, again, like I said, where this is going to place Full Gear in the totem pole, right? Now, what is AEW going to consider like, okay, these are our big four, big five pay-per-views, of the year. These are the most important ones we really got to put a lot of focus and emphasis into. And what is just our in-your-house filler pay-per-views, You got to wonder exactly how they're going to look at that. And to me, if they're doing World's End, then I could, and putting it right before New Year's, then I can definitely say they're going to be looking at that possibly as the pay-per-view that replaces Full Gear as one of their big 4, big 5 pay-per-views of the year. Like, again, Double or Nothing, All In, All Out, like I said, Double or Nothing, All In, All Out, Forbidden Door, because they treat that with importance sometimes, and World's End. You got to wonder if maybe Full Gear, along with Revolution, is going to be on the outside looking in. You have to wonder that. Along with Wrestle Dream, you got to wonder if Wrestle Dream, Full Gear, and Revolution are going to be on the outside looking in, and the others are going to be like the main shows that they really build things around. You have to wonder that, and if that's the effect World's End will have on Full Gear. Because, like I said, Full Gear was traditionally looked at as the last pay-per-view for AEW up until Revolution the next year at the end of February, beginning of March. So you have to wonder if it's going to have an effect of saying, hey, this is the bigger pay-per-view, this is going to have the more importance now, and Full Gear, like Revolution, and to an extent Wrestle Dream, are just filler. That's it. So you have to wonder. But yeah, Tony Khan made the announcement. It's going to happen, and we'll see what the end result is. We'll see if it'll be the one that will replace Full Gear as part of the big 4, big 5 package, if you will, and everybody else, like Full Gear, has to be on the outside looking in. The other 3, that being Revolution, Wrestle Dream, and Full Gear. We'll have to see. But that's just my thoughts on that. Give me your thoughts down below and in the live chat. Alright, next up we're going to talk about Rhys Frake-Waterfield and how he may have trouble releasing Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 next February, which is, according to sources, is when the movie is scheduled to come out. And the reason I say he may have trouble is, even though the last remaining Winnie the Pooh character that's going to go into public domain is Tigger, and that happens at the beginning of next year, the truth is he may have trouble. He may have trouble because, despite what people may say, like, oh, well, Disney won't be able to do this and that, Disney, honestly, they can find a way. They can find a way. I think what's going to happen is Disney is, I wouldn't necessarily say Disney, but I would say other people that want to do some Winnie the Pooh, want to do their own take on Winnie the Pooh, the more family-friendly take, if you will. They may put a halt to this, if you will. They may put a halt to this or something, if you will. Because when you look at this movie, you look at the first one. I was just watching Animat's, Electric Dragon Productions. I was just watching Animat's Let's Watch video, his short version, as well as he did a commentary on it. And basically, he agreed with everybody on how they felt about that first film. Like, yeah, this film, is not, it's not everything it's cracked up to be, and all that. It is bad. It is just like terrible, and everything. It's hard to watch, and like it just didn't make sense. I mean, the ending, pretty much did not make sense. It's like, what's the point in all this, right? So the new one's coming out. So the sequel's coming out in February. It's going to include Tigger. It's going to have Owl, Rabbit. I don't know about Kanga or Roo. I don't know about them, but it's apparently going to have Owl and Tigger. So, that's going to be interesting. I mean, Owl and Rabbit obviously could be in it, because they went into public domain along with the the first works of Winnie the Pooh, of the Arthur's stories. So they're fine to go into public domain with Pooh and Piglet. But now it's like, you're bringing in Tigger, and he's, like Pooh, is very iconic with Disney. So, people might say, well, it's just the earlier version of Tigger. It's not the Disney version. That's true. And the same was with Winnie the Pooh. But you can't tell me that Disney doesn't see this and they're like, oh, hell no, we can't let this happen. Because they do. They do see it. I mean, why do you think you don't see that many DVDs or Blu-rays of the movie being sold? And it's not because physical media is going out, out of. It's not because physical media is going out of style. That's far from it. Far from it. But why do you think you don't see them? Why do you think you don't see them? It's because Disney is in my opinion, Disney and anybody else that wants to have Pooh remain family friendly is doing everything they can to make sure this movie isn't seen. Yeah, you can watch it on Peacock all you want. You can buy it and rent it all you want. But the truth is, it's not because the movie's bad. It's not because it's bad. It's because of the fact that Disney and others that want that family-friendly image of Pooh to remain are doing what they can to get rid of it. They are doing what they can to get rid of it, to remove it. And to me, I think that's going to cause a lot of trouble for this guy, for this Waterfield guy, with releasing the second one next February, because, he's going to do, he's going through with the film. He's filming it. It's one of those films that, doesn't necessarily, have to worry about the actors strike and everything by SAG-AFTRA, if you will. They don't have to worry about that because they're very independent. But still, this guy's going to have trouble. I've got a feeling he's going to have trouble and everything, because you can make Tigger look as different as you want him to be. You can make Owl look as different as you want to be. People will still look at that as being Tigger and being Owl, especially when it's connected to Disney. And then you take into consideration what happened not that long ago, because apparently at one of those special schools and everything for gifted students or kids, gifted students and everything, apparently they showed Winnie the Pooh in Blood and Honey. The teachers, or at least somebody in the teacher staff did, because of a study they wanted to do, and that got national attention. And you can't tell me it didn't get the attention of Disney. So Disney probably hearing upon that, knowing what's going to happen here, they're probably being like, oh, heck no, we're not letting this happen. And if you think Bob Iger, who's back in charge, is going to let that happen, you think the people he's putting in charge in certain areas is going to let this movie happen in any capacity, you're sadly mistaken, because they won't. And yeah, the Waterfield guy could come up and say, well, the version of Tigger I'm using is public domain. It's not connected to you. It's not connected. It doesn't matter. They're going to look at that and say, no, you're not doing this. And you might say, well, they would have done something by now. Oh, they'll do something. They're waiting. They will bide their time. They will bide their time to make sure this does not get a release in theaters. And if it gets a release, it's a very limited. And if it gets a physical and digital release, it's very limited. They're going to make sure that this movie, along with the first one, is pretty much, removed from the psyche of a lot of folks that will want to see it just out of curiosity, because they, along with anybody else that want that more family-friendly version of Pooh and his friends, they're going to make sure, yeah, it'll exist, but it'll be one of those movies that'll barely exist. Like, you'll know it's there, but you won't be able to watch it because it's not how this character is supposed to be represented. But that's just my opinion. Again, I know Tigger's going to be part of the public domain, just like Pooh, at the beginning of next year, just like Pooh was at the beginning of this year. But I think it's going to be a lot of trouble. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble, trying to really get this movie noticed. Like, they could try to run commercials, they could, TV spots, if you will, YouTube TV spots. They could put trailers out there. But I guarantee you something's going to happen to it. It's going to be hard for them to get any of that notoriety for it because, of what the first film was like, because of what happened with that school, and the fact that when you look at Tigger's image for this film, it looks different, but people can basically say, yeah, that's Tigger from Disney, and that's a deranged version of Tigger. But believe me, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. You may not believe me on that, but it will. It will happen. And I think this guy's got to just be ready for the fact that if he's going to do any more of these horror projects like Bambi. He's going to do Bambi, The Beckoning. He's going to do Peter Pan, Neverland Nightmare and such. He's just got to be ready for the fact that, you know, he's going to face some complications going forward. He's going to face some complications, and that he may have to reconsider how he does these things. Like, he may have to consider, okay, maybe I want to do it this way, but I don't want trouble, so I'll do it this way. He may have to consider. But we'll see. But I believe he's going to have a little bit. I believe he may be facing some trouble releasing the second one. Just my opinion. All right, on to our next topic, guys. And our next topic is the fact that November 1st is when Christmas music will start playing on Music Choice and various other musical outlets. And that is true. And I've talked about this before here on my YouTube channel, that it seems every year, ever since I've moved back out here, Music Choice, at least one or two of them, Music Choice, which is a channel on the various cable outlets like Comcast, AT&T, like I say, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, Dish Network, DirecTV. You get the idea. It is a outlet. Well, not outlet, but it's a channel, a cable channel that plays non-stop music based on its genre. You got rock and pop, you got soft pop or soft rock, you got rock and pop, you got alternative, heavy metal, R&B, you name it. And you have Sounds of the Season. And Sounds of the Season, along with I think the soft rock channel, or another channel called Holiday Music, after Halloween, which is this Tuesday, on November 1st, which is Wednesday, is when they will start playing Christmas music. Now, sometimes they'll wait until November 2nd because they still have a commitment maybe to play Halloween related music. But most of the time, coming November 1st, mostly like when you wake up, get ready for work, that's when you can tune into Music Channel and be like, oh, Christmas music playing, so here we go. And they're not the only one. You'll start noticing through Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, iTunes. You'll start noticing that a lot of the Christmas playlists will pop up. A lot of the Christmas stations, recommended stations will start popping up. As well as the over-the-air radio stations, will start doing it as well, including the series. Some of the radio stations stuff through devices like Sirius and stuff. They'll start doing it as well. Through the radio channels and networks, like some radio channels, like some over-the-air networks, radio networks, will play it on occasions. Like you'll get mostly soft, like if it's a soft rock station, you'll mostly get normal soft rock, and then once in a while you'll get a version of Jingle Bells, or you'll get All I Want for Christmas and stuff like that. Like I said, same with series and some of the channels as well. So yeah, November 1st is going to be an interesting day, especially if you're a music lover, because some of your more well-known music stations that you listen to when you're driving to work, or you might listen to on your digital device like Spotify or iHeartRadio or whatever, don't be surprised, along with Music Choice, don't be surprised if you start hearing Christmas music playing or being recommended for you around that time frame. Don't be surprised, because after October 31st, after Halloween passes, that's pretty much a beeline for, the holiday season. I mean, when you really think about it, right now, we are less than a few weeks away from Thanksgiving, here in the U.S., and the Thanksgiving Day Parade. So that's huge to think about. But yeah, November 1st is when Christmas music will start playing on Music Choice and various other musical outlets. So so if I was you, I'd be on the lookout for that. That'll definitely get you in the holiday mood, probably more so than anything. I can tell you honestly, it's going to get me in a holiday mood, because I know that when I'm at work, depending if I'm working still, and I'm praying, I will pray for me that I'll still be working at Kohl's, part-time mostly, maybe, which I think would probably be the best option for me, but, pray I stay there. I know that from past experiences, I would listen to Christmas music almost immediately around the same time because it'd get me in the mood, make me happy and everything. So I'd start doing that around the same time. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I know that some people it gets a little like weird, like why are you starting? Why are they? Because if it's not like the decorations being put out, it's it could be it's the music. So don't be surprised if you start hearing it like through the over the air stations and A and F, mostly FM, but sometimes AM. And also don't be surprised if you play like sites like Sirius Radio and all that, and again Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, iTunes, and all that. Don't be surprised if you start seeing recommendations for Christmas stations to listen to, playlists to listen to, and don't be surprised if over the air wise you start hearing a Christmas song come on once in a while before we get right into the holiday season. And don't be surprised when you tune into Music Choice if you use that as your musical outlet or your music outlet. Like let's say if you're just cleaning the house, you're just wanting to relax, and you're reading a paper or reading a book. Don't be surprised that you start hearing Christmas music, holiday music coming out of that starting November 1st. But I just wanted to talk about that and give me your thoughts on it, and on to the next topic. Okay, so next topic here. Trip the Sungazer is the newest Sonic female in the franchise. That's right. This past week, along with Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the Switch, that is, the multi-platform game Sonic Superstars debuted. It is a callback to the classic Sonic games, if you will. This time you have Amy Rose being playable in it as well. She can have a super form, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. But we also have a new character. We have a new character in Trip the Sungazer. And she has an interesting backstory and everything. She, like Knuckles, is the last of her kind, or so we probably think. And, of course, she, at first she, tries to protect her home from Knack the Weasel or Fang the Weasel. And, after he takes her down and basically captures her and takes her to Eggman, Eggman tries to convince her, oh, I'm your friend and everything. Basically, she falls into the same scenario as Knuckles did several times. But she gets wise enough later on in the game because she does have her own story mode along with Knack and everything. Somebody even who did the video on her said that their story was kind of like Wile E. Coyote chasing Roadrunner. Every time they try to capture Sonic and his friends, the plans would backfire. And over time, Trip would realize, hey, these guys aren't my friends. These guys aren't really nice people. And so basically there comes a moment in the games where she just takes off her helmet, reveals, her face. She's a Sungazer lizard, apparently. And when the 7 emeralds were around her, she got her super form, and it's a dragon. Because apparently her people that she was part of have a super form when they're around the emeralds that turn them into dragons. And that there was this one dragon that wanted more power, or one Sungazer wanted more power as a dragon and got trapped in the form and stuff like that. You have to play the game. I haven't played it yet. I'm going to get it and play it. But yeah, it's basically that. So yeah, she basically, like I said, turns good and everything. And it's mostly thanks to Amy Rose, who's in a classic Amy design, befriending her. And what I do like about Amy Rose as well, I'll put this out there, is they do give you the option to let the classic Amy Rose wear the modern Amy Rose outfits. That's pretty cool. But anyway, it's Amy Rose that befriends her and everything when she sees her crying and everything because she fell down a hole or something like that. And it's only through the befriending that she realizes, hey, Fang/Knack and Eggman are not really her friends. That's when she's had enough and everything, takes off the helmet, the emeralds surround her, and she turns into her super dragon form, which is basically too much for Fang to handle, even if he tries to use his mecha suit, if you will, or the mecha bot that he has. It's too much for him and all that. And in the end, she becomes the newest friend and ally of Sonic, Amy, Tails, and Knuckles. So that's pretty cool. And that's pretty cool to see. So now the question is, where is she going to fit in as far as the overall franchise goes? Because these games, these Sonic Superstar games, unless they're going to say, hey, they take place another time, another place, another time, another place, unless they go that route, I'm assuming that this is a flashback. Like, basically, we're seeing them meet Trip for the first time in a flashback, and that going forward, when you have the more modern version of Sonic, the more modern version of Amy, Knuckles, and Tails, and then you have Rouge and them, we'll see the I guess you could say updated modern version of Trip. Like, we'll probably see her as she was presented in the game, but a little bit more, I guess you could say, statuesque, if you will. I don't know if that's a word. But yeah, I can definitely. But yeah, I can definitely see her in future installments, mostly like mostly like games like Sonic Frontiers and such, down the line. I could see that. I could see that. So yeah, she's the newest female, and again, how she fits in is going to be really interesting. Going forward, how she'll be incorporated into the IDW Sonic books is going to be interesting as well. They may give it a one-off and everything, or they might say, okay, we're going to bring her in, but this is when we're going to bring her in. She's going to have a similar design, and everything, but maybe a little updated to fit in with the modern aesthetic, if you will. But yeah, she's the newest character, and she's got, like I said, she's got a super form. So right now, if you count game character-wise or connected to games, you have Amy, you have Rouge, you have Tangle, you have Whisper, you have Blaze. Who else do you have? You have Xena, the Zete. Who else? Who else do you have besides her? Like I said, you have Amy, you have Rouge, you have Tangle, you have Whisper. What did I just say? You have Blaze as well. That's 6. And then you have Xena of the Zete. Who else do you have? I know there's more. Honey, by extension of Sonic Fighters, you have her. Who else do you have outside of that? I know there's more. I just can't think of it right now. Hold on for a second, guys. Hold on for a second. Yeah. Okay, I got it right here. So you have basically, like I said, you got Blaze, you got Tangle, you got Blaze, you got Rouge, you got Amy, you got Tikal, you got Cream, you got Vanilla. Those are the ones I was missing out on. I think that image right here. I think an image right here will help me. So you got you got them. You got Styx. You got Wave the Swallow. Okay. So you got Marina the Raccoon. You got Styx the Badger. And now you have Trip. Now you have Trip to add to the equation. So let's see. That's Amy, Rouge, Whisper, Tangle, Blaze, Cream, Vanilla, Styx, Marina. So yeah, you have a decent amount. You have a decent amount there. So that's what, like I said, that's what I'm looking at. You have a decent amount. You have Amy, you have Blaze, you have Tango, Whisper, Rouge, Cream, Vanilla, Tikal, Styx, Wave, Marina, Shade, and Honey by extension, and now Trip, and Tara, and if you want to counter Tara Babuski, if you will. So that's almost like a dozen, if not over a dozen females when you add in Trip. So that's a pretty good. Group to be part of, to add to, and everything. When it comes to the overall game portion of the Sonic franchise, main game portion, if you will. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good to see. But again, the question is like, what exactly is she going to be doing going forward? I can see her being involved in future Sonic games, like Frontiers, maybe the sequel to Frontiers, and so on. Maybe she becomes a DLC character in Frontiers. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting to see her there. It's interesting to have this kind of a character around who, usually when we see the characters get a super form, it's just like they turn another color or brighter another color and everything. They just become like a not like unstoppable force. Here she doesn't. Here she changes forms. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with her. What I do like is I noticed this on DeviantArt one time. Somebody's already starting to potentially ship her with Tails by having Amy show up with Trip in a bikini and saying hi to Tails. So it looks like they're gonna try to ship Tails with Trip now, and it's like, my God, what is Tails must be a ladies' man, because everybody wants to ship somebody with him, even in the more adult category, if you know what I mean. But yeah, she's the newest Sonic female in the franchise, and let me know what your thoughts are on it. And on to the last and final topic. Alright, for our last and final topic here, we're going to talk about Alopex and Raphael back together in the main IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. And where does that place Ninjara when she debuts? Because yes, Ninjara is coming in. And just like, Venus and Mona Lisa before her and other characters, she's going to be a little more different in design and maybe perhaps even background. But yeah, if you guys have been following the comics, unfortunately I haven't. The only way I've been following them is through Google and through the Technodrome forums and through various free Patreons and all that. But apparently, Alopex and Raphael kind of broke up at the beginning of the Armageddon game because she did not trust Hiroko Saki, aka Shredder, who apparently had turned good, and was going to join the Turtles, for this event, help them, battle what was coming. Now, I don't know what happened in between. Apparently, a betrayal may have happened. I'm not really sure. You guys can fill me in on that if you can. But basically, Alopex had created, during this time, and you got to wonder how much time went by. It shouldn't be that long. Created her own clan, because she wanted to prove that she could lead, that she could be a leader, she can be on her own. But apparently, that all backfired. Kids in her clan, we don't know if they were her children. We don't think they were her children. Were being kidnapped by the main villain of this, the main doctor. And basically, it got to a point to where she got injured, severely injured, not, like on death's door or anything, but just severely injured, to the point that Raphael was attending to her in an abandoned building. And she was just, apologizing, the way it was described, she was just, talking in a way to where, her wounds, her being beat up so badly was getting to her, making her say things she doesn't mean. But Raphael says, hey, I'm here for you and everything. You're just, talking nonsense. You're going to be all right. And there's a moment in one of the issues where, I think Alopex is like, telling Raphael he needs to go and, take care of the city, make it his priority or something like that. Again, I haven't read the books, but the scene that is up there that somebody put on the Patreon is him looking at her and saying, no, you're my priority. You are my priority right now. Kind of, I guess in a way alluding to the fact that he's now realizing that, he still cares for her. Despite them having a big blow up when they got reunited, if you will. Despite having a big blow up and all that, he realizes he still cares for her. He still loves her, apparently. And, he even apologized. And this is something that Raphael's character has never been known to do that much of because it, basically it hurts his pride. But, he apologized to her for not listening to her when it came to Hiroko Saki. Basically, not, I guess you can say, talking it over with her, before they did it, and saying, hey, we're considering bringing in the Shredder to help us out. He's turned over a new leaf. What are your thoughts? And maybe get her thoughts on it, like, maybe that's not a good idea and such. So, so basically he apologized to her for not, listening to her about that. Because again, I don't know what happened, but, he's apologizing for the fact that he should have, at least let her have a say in it, if she was going to be part of his life, part of the team. So, yeah, it seems that what it looks like here, and I think a lot of people pretty much predicted this might happen, is, right from the beginning of the Armageddon game, I think what a lot of people predicted from right off the start, before the Armageddon game actually, because the breakup happened a little before that in Preludes, is that these two would get back together, and they are. It looks like that's, from what I can tell, that looks like the direction they're heading in. But the question, excuse me. The question now is, where does that leave Ninjara when she debuts? Because, yes, Ninjara, I did a video on this, is showing up in the comics real soon. We don't know if it's at the end of the Armageddon game, during the Armageddon game. We're not really sure. We're not sure if she's going to have the same background or a similar one that she had in the Archie books, where she comes from an island of humanoid foxes, or she's going to be somebody that was mutated into a humanoid fox. We're not really sure. But it's going to be interesting to see, how she'll fit in, because a lot of fans that followed the Archie TMNT book, that are probably invested into the IDW book, they know about the relationship, the history between Raphael and Ninjara. So you got to wonder if that's going to play a role in the book. You got to wonder. Now we know that they are apparently teasing, romantic wise, something between Michelangelo and their version of Venus. We could see that. I don't know about Leonardo and Karai, if they're teasing something there. We don't know what Donatello's situation is. But obviously, again, fans know about Ninjara and Raphael's relationship from the Archie book. So you have to so you have to wonder if they're going to be putting Raphael back together with Alopex. You have to wonder if they're going to put, somebody with Ninjara. They're going to put Leonardo with Ninjara. They're going to put Donatello with Ninjara, because again, like I said, it seems like they're teasing something between Michelangelo and Venus. I'm just saying. But we'll have to see, and it'll be an interesting dynamic and everything. Some people have pretty much projected, if not predicted, that there could be a connection between Alopex and Ninjara, and that might be something interesting as well, when she debuts, but we'll have to see. But yeah, it seems, though, that they are probably getting back together in the main IDW TMNT book, and how Ninjara fits in, we'll have to see. Because apparently she is going to start off maybe as a bad guy or as a vigilante or something, and she'll befriend the turtles. We know that's probably going to happen, but again, who would she end up with romantic-wise? Would it be Leonardo? Would it be Donatello? We'll have to see. Or will they make her a lesbian and she ends up with Jenica, the female turtle? We'll have to see. But again, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. Now you might say, well, Jenica already has a lesbian love interest, right? Yeah, I think she does and everything, but she still could be on the table as a potential love interest if they want to do that with Ninjara, the version of Ninjara. We'll have to see. But if she's off the table, then I'm looking at either Donatello or Leonardo. We'll have to see. And I know I'm saying we'll have to see a lot here, so I do apologize. But we'll have to just look forward to what they have planned. And, what they have planned and everything, and whether or not she has a connection to Alopex, and, what the connection could be there, and how Raphael will be involved. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, like I said, it looks like they're getting those two back together in the comic, in the main TMNT book from IDW, and how Ninjara plays a role will be interesting to see, because again, fans know about her relationship with Raphael, and how they kind of, answer that, how they kind of, answer that and contemplate that, and maybe even do something similar, but with another turtle. Whether it is Leonardo, whether it is Donatello, or if she doesn't have anybody anymore, maybe from a lesbian perspective, Jenica, we'll have to see. But yeah, it seems that this relationship between Alopex and Raphael is mending, and it's gonna get back on its feet, apparently. And we'll just see what they do from there. We'll see what plans they have with Ninjara when she shows up, and if she plays a factor down the line. It will be something to pay attention to. I will say that. But like I said, I think a lot of people predicted that Alopex and Raphael may end up back together, ever since the breakup in the Prelude to Armageddon game occurred. Because it's like, why break them up? Why break them up when they had such a good dynamic? I mean, I have the comic where it looked like Rocksteady and Bebop killed Donatello, and you could see the chemistry they had there. It's a strong chemistry. So I don't think they will. So I don't think they'd want to. IDW, the people behind the book, would want to ruin that in any case. They don't want to go down the road apparently that Archie did with Ninjara and Raphael in the TMNT book, at the end of the Moon Eyes saga. So I think a lot of fans knew that this would probably happen, and I'm pretty sure they got smiles on their faces, hoping that it comes full circle. But again, what Ninjara does when she shows up, based on fans knowing her history from the Archie books, with Raphael, is going to be interesting. Now, some people might say, well, she doesn't have a history with Raphael, all the turtles in IDW. And again, that's what I'm saying. It's going to make things interesting because fans are going to expect her to be romantically involved either with Raphael, or if it's not Raphael, either Leonardo, Donatello, or maybe from a lesbian perspective, Jenica. We'll just have to stay tuned to see what they do. But anyway, that's all I want to say on that. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Alopex and Raphael possibly back together in the main IDW book. How do you feel about that? Also, let me know what your thoughts are on Ninjara and how you feel about when she shows up, and what do you think her involvement will be. And that's about it on that topic. Okay, so in closing, guys, I want to thank you for listening to this Topics on My Mind for today, the 29th of October, 2 days before Halloween. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are on each topic down below. I will have timestamps as best as I can for each of them, so you can go straight to them if you don't want to listen to the whole thing. This will also be on my VW Roses podcast as well. And until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are, like I said, on each of the topics. How do you feel about each of them, from the LadyDrasami thing to Mike Johnson being the health speaker, the Kansas Jayhawks winning, AEW adding a pay-per-view in World's End? What are your thoughts on Waterfield possibly having trouble releasing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, in February next year? Your thoughts on Christmas music starting almost literally literally on November 1st, the day after Halloween. Your thoughts on Trip to Sungazer being the newest Sonic female in the franchise. And your thoughts on Alopex and Raphael being possibly back together in the main IDW book of TMNT, and where do you think Ninjara will fall in when it comes to that, when she debuts? Let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and until then, I'm out. You all have a good day.